I am divorced with 2 kids and their dad is barely involved. I want to believe I can be enough for them, but deep down I worried they'll always feel that absence. What can I do to protect their hearts as they grow up?
This is so challenging, and you're going to need to deal with it differently at different stages. So, what you want to do is validate their sense of loss. You don't necessarily want to introduce it. You don't necessarily want to say, hey, you guys have lost something really important. But depending on how old they are, they're going to come to sort of this evolving understanding that something is missing or something is lost, or I'm really longing for this father who has abandoned me, in essence. And so what you want to do is you want to carefully validate. You want to say, honey, the reason that you're sad is because you deserve to have your daddy here loving you every day. And he didn't do the hard thing by figuring out how to make that work, and he left. And I'm sorry. And that makes me sad. Like, just validate where they are. Later on, maybe when they're in their adolescence or their teenage years, you can be a little more blunt. You can say things like, it is very hard not to have a dad. You are experiencing the challenges that go along with having a father who has abandoned you. Maybe there's economic struggles because mom's trying to work too many jobs. Maybe it's this craving. Maybe you see your son, for example, craving the attention of different coaches or male teachers because they're so hungry for the validation of a father. Maybe you see them slipping into criminality because that is very often, unfortunately, a bit of a predictable pathway for kids that grow up fatherless. You can be honest with them and say, your father has disadvantaged you. He chose to put us before them. He chose to put himself before you. His refusal to do the hard thing in his own life, whether that was, I don't know, not making up whether it was alcoholism, whether it was running off with another woman, whether it was just immaturity to the point where he wasn't willing to do the hard work of being a father. You can say he refused to do the hard thing of reforming his life, and he's forced you to do the hard thing of growing up with all of the risks of not having a dad in your life. And he was wrong. It's actually important when it's age appropriate, which is not when they're really, really little, but probably when they're a teenager, to give them an explanation as to why their father is gone. Because if you don't, they'll fill in the blank. And you know what they're going to fill in? It's me. I'm unlovable. I'm unworthy. I did something wrong. I'm a piece of garbage. Because they have to have an explanation for why the person that they want to be loved by so much has completely bailed on them. And you have to be able to tell them the truth, not in a way that unnecessarily trashes their father, but one that fills in the blank with something other than the child's own self-loathing. Because that honestly is the way that a lot of kids are going to finish that question.
When we talked about earlier in the episode, we should go about trying to find those mentors and seek out the male mentors for your sons, or be a male mentor. But there is some caution with that too, because unrelated men can also be very potentially dangerous to children. And so you do have to keep an eye out on the people that even you might think are safe involved at your church, or coaches, or those sorts of things. So it is something a single mom would have to be very vigilant about as well. Like if there's too much special attention being paid or things like that. But seeking out good men to be a part of your son's lives, I think, are also going to be really important.
Absolutely. But you're exactly right. You need to be careful. I was listening to an interview a long time ago with, a pedophile, and he said, oh, I just picked the fatherless kids. I just know that they're, number one, there's going to be nobody to fend me off. Number two, they're so vulnerable because they crave so much the male attention that they're not getting at home. And so thank God there's incredible men out there, uncles, grandfathers, neighbors, people at church. But even the people that look like they're doing it for your child's best interest, it's just a very, very good idea to be judicious about who you allow access to your child. You're in a tough spot though. And, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. A lot of people look at our work at Them Before Us and say, oh, you're denigrating single moms. No, most of the single moms that I know are single moms because they were the only parent willing to act like an adult. They were the only one that was willing to do hard things for the kid. They were the only one that was willing to put them before us. And single moms, more than anybody I've found, have really recognized that their child is paying the price. We actually have quite a few single moms that are financial supporters of them before us, because they're like, you are telling the truth about my child, that they're experiencing something that no child should have to experience. I am watching them deal with the self-loathing or the rejection or the father hunger because their dad refused to do what was best for his kid and did instead what was best for himself. So we can be honest with the world. We can be honest with our kids about who children are and what they need. And it ends up surprisingly being incredibly validating for those kids, because the last thing in the world we want is for them to think there was something wrong with them just because a parent refused to step up and do the hard thing.